welcome everyone to the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr.'s History Club. We meet here twice a month in honor of Dr. William Mackey Jr., Amos Wilson, Gil Noble, Louis Ray Rivera, Elhaj Malik El-Shabazz, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, Ivan Van Sertima, Hubert Harrison, and a host of people that gave up fame and fortune, good jobs, burned the midnight oil, wrote books to bring true history. They gave up a lot, and they suffered a lot because they cared for their people, more for their people than for money. So we keep these lectures going in honor of the great William Mackey Jr. and all the people that followed in his footsteps. Because in this day and time, they'll give anybody money and go across the street and do what they got to do. We never want these people to be forgotten. So we have these meetings, so I want to, oh, y'all give yourself a big hand. So, we have a few public information on Tuesday at 5 o'clock on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. You have Community Cop with Noel Leader, Brother Mike Graves, Julian Harper. Top information to the global black community. Also, on Thursdays, on Facebook Live, you have Keisha, Tad, and Ashe. Information to the black community, you can log on Facebook Live at 8 o'clock. Also, on Saturdays at 12 o'clock, 1590 AM out of Baltimore, the radio program, The State of the City. It's a brother called Brother Darren Muhammad. His information to the global black community is impeccable. Also, on Saturdays, Blog Talk Radio, Sister Empress Chi, New Day Resurrection. You tune in to Blog Talk and you put in Empress Chi at 10:30, and that program comes on at 10:30, and sometimes they go to maybe about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So those are information, and then we got Brother Trust Graham with a study group out of Newark, New Jersey. So these are just some information that if you feel like getting more information, because the main subject and the thing is to get the information out to the global black community so you can learn. And that's what we do. Now, the last lecture that Dr. Lewis did, they removed it from Facebook and YouTube. I have the copies here. He was fierce. And if a lot of people don't realize that, you're missing a lot of information. But that's why you can see part 1. And if anybody's looking to go to view all the lectures, you could go into YouTube on BK William Mackey Jr.'s History Club. And you can go into that, and all the lectures will come up. And if you go into all the lectures of the Community Cop, you go into YouTube and you put a Community Cop. And for all the years that Community Cop has been doing the lectures with Noel Leader, you could analyze, you could research, you go back and find out what's going on. So that's what it's about, information to the global black community. That's what we're about. Okay, Facebook, can you please mute yourself? Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have one of our own, Brother Mike Graves, is going to do a continuation. Community Cop has been fierce with the information. And what it's about is information. Because you got to remember, that's one thing that society, European society, white society, do not like is for people to get information. They want to control the information. And that's why these people have went beyond the call of duty to burn the midnight oil, drink coffee in the all night, writing information, putting information together. So now I'm going to bring you over right quick. Bernard, just bring this over right quick. We have the Amos collection. in honor of Amos Wilson in Sababa, Blueprint for Black Power. The last classic that Sababa finished for Amos was the Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat toward a Reclamation of the African Mind. We also have the Developmental Psychology of the Black Child, Issues of Manhood in Black and White, African-Centered Consciousness versus the New World Order, Black on Black Violence, the Psychodynamics of Black Self-Annihilation in Service of White Domination. When you look at Black on Black Violence and you want to ask them questions, read that book. In honor of Louis Ray Rivera, we have Jazz in Jail. Also, the Amos Classic, Awakening the Natural Genius of Black Children, The Falsification of African Consciousness, S.K. Damiana Akumi, Distorted, The Bastardization of African Cosmology, and Earl Ponder, Revealing the Unspeakable Bible Verses, The Truth About Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the Holy Trinity. He passed away. And he left a whole lot of books, and Sababa is selling them. So all the proceeds from here go back to Sababa so he can continue to work. And we have a sister, Mrs. Etta Dixon. And she wrote a book, I Am a Wellness Witness. So we support her by selling her books. So all this is to help the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr. History Club. So without further ado, our keynote speaker for tonight is one of the co-founding members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement. He's a good brother, and his topic will be Hollywood and the criminal justice system. He's going to speak, and then later on we're going to have a question and answer. If you want refreshments, you go get it. And then when he comes back, we do a question and answer and bring it out. We're going to leave about 10 o'clock. Without further ado, family, I want you to give a big hand to Brother Mike Crane.
Say I am.
I am.
Because we are.
We are.
I am.
I am.
Because we are.
Because we are.
Tonight, I will do what Ray suggested with respect to the subject matter. I'm going to change it slightly because of recent developments, because I know that a lot of the recent things that have happened are part of your bosom interest, these things that have occurred, and whether they've been resolved or not to your liking. So we'll get into a little bit of that too. But from the outset, it's kind of interesting that Deidre has a t-shirt on tonight, and the t-shirt has Dr. Francis Cress Wells, and it's talking about self-image, the dangers of self-image, and how what you perceive to be a healthy self-image can be used to destroy you. And you will dance and sing while you're destroying yourself. In other words, what she's saying and suggesting in that statement that Deidre is wearing is that you are investing in your own destruction. And more accurate words were never spoken because it's true. You know, there are things that we do on a daily basis that helps white supremacy and aids and abets, and I dare say it undergirds white supremacy. And if everybody gets a chance on the break or whatever, if you can, try to read her t-shirt. I know you don't want to pose for, a long period of time, but try to read that t-shirt and you show me one thing in there that's not accurate, that's on her t-shirt. You get a chance, read the t-shirt, and it's worth your while to read.
What does it say?
Well, I think I just said it.
Different sizes of t-shirts.
You know, the whole concept of what self-identity and what self-image is, and how one can participate in one's own destruction with respect to things we do daily, because we don't do healthy introspection on a daily basis. Consequently, we find ourselves doing things. Do you think, brother, you can see any day, I saw it this morning walking out of the house early in the morning. A brother walking out, he had his pants sagging all the way down, his butt was exposed. He walked out of the house, which means his family saw him leave that way, and obviously nobody said anything. Young guy, you know, probably shortly out of high school, just that age, 18, 19, 20. And he doesn't know what that is. He doesn't, he's not aware of that image. He doesn't aware of, he's coming out of the house and he's reciting lyrics of a song where he's demeaning himself and our people. And it's all on the t-shirt. He's reciting destructive things that he's heard from people in all likelihood that he looks up to. Consequently, that's participating in your own demise. But you know, if you get a chance, you could, you know, see what our Dr. Chris Wilson is saying. You know, you get a chance. So, in any event, I'm going to start, and I'm going to get into some things that it might be a little uncomfortable, brother. You know, some things that's going to be a little uncomfortable, but these are things that we have to get into. From the outset, I'm going to start off with something Orwellian, just to kind of get your thinking caps on. Could everybody turn their phones off, please? If it's okay with everybody. If it's not robbery, please cut your phones off, and if you have to answer them, can we answer them, you know, outside? Thank you. So to start off with something Orwellian, he who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. I'm going to say that again, just in case you hear present, past, future, all that stuff, and it's in any way confusing. I'm going to say it again, and I think you will have a better understanding. He who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. Does everybody understand that?
I think I got very into.
So, in understanding that, you have to understand what image is. Because there are people that are controlling you that you've never seen or heard from. Matter of fact, you don't even know who they are. There are people that can control you from a distance, from the other side of the world. Okay, and they can control what you're thinking. They can control your actions. If you can control a man's thoughts, you also control his actions. You also control his self-image. So, from the outset, does anybody have an idea what self-image is? We don't want everybody to answer, but if somebody kind of like
The way I look at me.
knows it, go ahead.
It's the way I perceive myself.
Exactly. Did you hear what he said? It's the way you see yourself. Now that doesn't mean that what you're seeing is accurate. However, he's exactly right. It's the way you see yourself. You might be on self-destruct, but in your mind, you get me. You know, if you're out there in the game and doing things in the community that's making you a lot of money, you know, your self-image might be that of beauty. Not ugly, It might be one is wonderful. And life is the ultimate. But that's the way you see yourself. So self-image has to do with how you see yourself. Now, from the outset, I want to talk about a couple of things, you know, so we'll have a baseline from which we could all get together and reason together. If I say to you, context, what's context? If I say context, what am I talking about? If I say it's very important to have context.
As a total image.
A little more than that, but you know, it has to do with image. Okay. Context is the circumstances that form a setting of an event. That's what it is. It's an idea. It can be fully understood or assessed. That's context. What's an example of context? An example of context would have to do with your surroundings. Your surroundings and the circumstances you find yourself in. That will provide you with context. Now, I'm going to give you another word that's similar. Perspective. What's perspective? It has to do with sort of like self.
How do you see things?
Exactly. Now, perspective is how you see things. It's your point of view. It's the way you see things around you. It is similar to you saying, from your vantage point, oh man, in April it rains too much. But then a farmer is saying he's concerned about a lack of rain. Are both right or are both wrong? They're both right. A farmer wants more rain, but you as a person that's going to and fro, you don't want that rain. That's perspective. Now, you could also say from your vantage point, you could see a lion. If the lion is 20 feet away from you, and there's a wall in between you two, you are interested and fascinated in that lion. You want to see the way the lion walks, the way it moves. You want to see it. Would that be your same feelings if that wall disappeared?
No.
Now what is it?
Fear.
Fear. Fear and flight.
Yeah.
That's perspective. And that's context. You understand that? The wall is there. Everything is fine. You looking at the lion. You looking at his mane. You looking at his stride. You looking at those muscles. And you know, you see a whole history. You're trying to understand his nature. His nature is explosive. It's one of exploitation and seeing prevailing weaknesses in a second. Everything that a lion sees, it knows its weaknesses and its strengths. It knows how to attack. It's inbred in them. In no time, it recognizes that. And that's why a lion always eats. Because he's going to get dinner one way or the other. He's going to have dinner. He's not going to miss a meal. And if you don't do your thing right, you will be that meal. So if there are rams or zebras or whatever's in that area, wildebeest, one's going to be the herd. One's going to be the herd. And the one that's going to be the herd more often than not is the one when they're all together, you know, wildebeest travel together. The one that steps out of line. Now, the lion will also go after one that's limping. If they all are running together and they all look strong, and one got a little limp or bruise from something, he can see it in their stride, that's who they're going after. And that's exploiting existing weaknesses. Do that sound familiar? Exploiting existing weaknesses. You name an organization, and in seconds, you should know what the weaknesses of that organization are. It's not hard. You name every airtight organizations or loosely put together organizations, they have inherent weaknesses. The nature of a lion, the nature of a wolf is to exploit them. From the outset, a zebra, if they stay in formation, it's a little dizzying looking at them because all you're seeing is multiple stripes. It's hard. But somebody gonna get out of line while they running. Somebody gonna, you know, poke their head out or go to the right or the left. And that's who all the lions are gonna focus in on. And it's interesting that, do y'all know that once a lion catches his prey, all the other zebras or wildebeest don't stop running? Because they understand the lion. Once they've caught who they're going to eat, that pride, they can all stop now. The zebras will stop running. And they'll turn around and look, okay, that's Bubba. He got it, he won. And everybody, they're going to stand around. Now they ain't running no more. And they're going to watch Bubba get it. You know, they're going to chop him up. And then after all the big ones eat, the little cubs and all of them come along. And they get their little bites in. They got a pecking order. And you know, and the moms, the mother will make sure the little ones eat. And maybe even back somebody up a little bit to make sure the little ones get theirs. And it's when they feast, it's amazing to see how the animals know now everybody's safe again for a while. Everybody's safe. They got their dinner, you know. But the strength of the wolf is the pack. The strength of the lion is the pride. I'm gonna come back to later exploring existing weaknesses. There's a reason why I'm pointing that out. And if you don't know, I won't put you through it, but I should ask you about certain organizations, and you should be able to run down what they're weak at, and where their strengths are, and where they're weak at. You know, you should know that, but I'm not gonna do that, and it's not so much that the camera's there and you might be embarrassing them. It's not that, because you're helping them. If you can lay out their weaknesses, you're helping them. But I'll say that, and if I do a follow-up, maybe I'll do that. But for these purposes tonight, given the time period, I want to do things a different way. But so from the outset, I just want us to understand context, perspective, your point of view, and also with respect to what I started out with, which is on the T-shirt of Deidre, and which is self-image. Because the average young brother who walks out of his house with his bought out and wearing certain kind of things, and you know, the red and blue bandanas and all that stuff, if you told him he was wearing a uniform, he wouldn't know what you was talking about. If you said, I see you already in uniform, because it's typical. He said, nah, B, this is my personal swag. Well, that's your personal swag. You in uniform. Look at that guy right there, across the street. He's dressed the same way you are. So, but you can delude people into thinking there's something that they're not. And if you can control a man's thinking, as I said, you control his action. You control his behavior, what he prioritizes, whether it's money, whether it's getting high, whether it's conquest of women, whether, whatever it might be. A guy gonna say, that's a man being a man. Or a boy, that's just a boy being a boy. But there's certain things that's inextricably woven into the black experience that we have to overcome. So I'm gonna get into some things that I want y'all to respond to. For one thing, what from the outset, one other question, and then I'll get into some stuff. What's gaslighting?
Yes, lighting.
Gaslighting. Rajin, I know you know what's gaslighting.
Bullshit in the public.
Is that right what he said?
It's what?
You can repeat it, brother.
Bullshit in the public.
Motion to what?
That's pretty good. I
We
mean,
say bullshit the Republic? Bullshit the public?
The public.
he said, "Oh."
You mean like a
Never heard that.
oh, so somebody.
Well, it's a level of dishonesty in it, but it has an agenda
Yeah.
when you gaslight somebody. It's an abusive, coercive act, and it has all the scars of emotional abuse attached to it. So because you can play with somebody and confuse them, but it's all for fun. Or you can do it in a way where you're verbally attacking them, you're mentally hurting them, and then you can say later, you ever see somebody do something to a person, and then that person says to them, whatever they just did, you made me do it.
Yeah.
We've all experienced that, so that's
Yes.
that's some of the that's the outcome of gaslighting somebody. But I'll give you sort of a definition to as opposed to just giving you an example of it. It's manipulation that comes in a psychological way, which questions your own sanity. You will raise questions about your own sanity because they confuse you. And it says you question your thoughts, memories, and it extends to occurring things that are around you. You start questioning all of that and where you at in that. Okay? Because it's a hell of a thing to rationalize, oh, well, it was your fault, you made me do that.
Yeah.
You know that there are men that will get real physical with women and then say later, baby, you made me slap you, and then you gotta go step by step when you backtrack. Well, what did she say that she deserved the back of your hand? Because you got that all day at work and ain't slapped nobody. But now you want to come home and now you a boxer. And now you want to beat everybody up. You turned into Mike Tyson. All of a sudden, you're a bear now. You're a gorilla at home. But those same things that said to you at work, you somehow have the ability to take that. So when you jive somebody, or the way Rajin said it, it's that, but you're doing it in a very harmful way. And some people get off on that, but technically speaking, it's being done to us on a grand scale. On a grand scale. They got us acting in ways, when white people like for example.
Yo, Leroy, please mute yourself. You got noise in the background. Leroy Bristol, please mute yourself, please. You got noise in the background. Yes, ma'am.
Well, Trump, when he was president, he was driving through, you know that part of DC that leads you to the White House, and he commented to someone, and some journalists were in the vehicle when he said, how can they live that way? Now that's an ignorant question for him, because he already knows what the white power structure has done to our people. And certainly he's aware of the situation we find ourselves in 2021. He knows everything from how a government can destabilize a community, you know, with things like eminent domain. I'm not even talking about putting the drugs or arresting people unjustly, having a criminal justice system that favors incarceration. But I'm talking about things like highways, things like shopping malls. You can put them into black communities and devastate a community and just call it eminent domain, which is supposed to be a tool of the government for the betterment of the community, but it's been used in ways to destroy it. When they see a productive, independent, black community emerging and doing things independently where that money is staying in the black community, they automatically, governors go after that community. You know, there's strips in there's an economic bloodline in literally every city going back 40, 50, 70 years, 100 years, that they devastated with the flimsy excuse that they needed this to put a highway there through for transportation.
Well, they'll find a way.
They needed it for a highway, or what? A public park, things like that, and I can tell by the way people are shaking their head that they can think of things that they saw done or they know of things that have happened. And they did things like that over the years, and that's the government's part. And there's also the terrorist aspect. You know, there's never been a period where black churches haven't been bombed and firebombed and put on fire and destroyed. There's never been a period, never been a period where that hasn't happened. There has never been an independent situation of blacks left to their own devices. It just doesn't happen. At some point they coming in. Even things like in Harlem, when organizations like the Black Panther Party stepped to drug dealers and told them they can't operate at certain locations. Well, suddenly the Black Panther Party, those members started getting arrested. Because they messing with somebody's money, not just the people you see, but the people you don't see. Consequently, what I'm trying to build a foundation. I'm trying to tell you that there are different levels to this with respect to how the government does it, how it's done. Everybody has marching orders. So a police department will do things a certain way in Bed-Stuy that favors the white residents over the black ones. You know, I remember a time on Franklin Avenue, you know, especially growing up as a child, you know, when you're over that way, you had to watch yourself. You know, I'm not saying exactly at all moments your head needed to be on the swivel, but close to it. You had to be aware. And now I see on Franklin Avenue in the summertime, white people, 1 o'clock in the morning, with sandals and shorts on, are walking down Franklin Avenue stumbling, drunk, Ain't nobody touching them. Now, I'm not advocating that you do. I'm just saying that before, you be a victim. You know, and I'm not gonna say they're gonna take your head off, but they're gonna get that money. They're gonna get your wallet. But now it's our people are trained, leave them alone. You know what's gonna happen if you start tagging them. You already know what's gonna happen. And that's all of us. We all are pretending, you know, we wearing a face like we don't know, but we know what's gonna happen. And they know what the position of the police department is. They know what the court system is. And that's why that lady in Prospect Park, remember with the bird watcher, told him she would call the police on him. Yeah, Central, what park did I say? No, it was Central Park. Yeah, it was Central Park. And she actually called them, and they call those women now Karens, right? They call white women that call police on black folks Karens, because they'll just make up a story. They don't care, because they already know when the police officer comes to you, the attitude is going to be totally different from when that police officer comes over to ask her what happened. Totally different. So I'm just saying that in context. We got to understand context and perspective. Same community, different responses. There's a different energy. Everybody has marching orders. Get to Hollywood, because I want to make a connection with Hollywood, the government, and then I'm going to talk about some things from the past with respect to criminality on the police department's part, but also these recent developments. And, okay, we good on time. Now, to better understand what I'm saying, you would just have to just live the black experience. What is that? That's just like you already know the response if you see flashing lights. You drive in your car and you see flashing lights. There's an innate fear in all of us, whether you have something out of pocket in the car or not. See, you're afraid whether you got drugs in the car or not, whether you got a licensed weapon in the car or not. There's just a fear. And that fear is not of getting a ticket for a traffic violation. The fear is you don't know what's going to happen. It might start out as a summons, and you might end up incarcerated or worse. I think we all know that. So let's talk about, well, first, with respect to information. The father of intelligence in America is who? Who's called the father of intelligence? Also the father of business. It's a person that studied social groups in the early days of this republic. Do we know who that is? I've said it before in past elections. Okay, Edward Benet. Edward Benet. Now, if I asked you the,
He's American.
yeah. Now, if I asked you the counterpart, speaking of American, if I said in Nazi Germany, who would that person be? Some of y'all might know. If I said, who would that person be?
Nagler.
Who?
Nagler.
No.
How you spell my name?
B-R-N-A-Y.
What office does he have?
Or B-E-N-A-Y. B-E-N-A-Y.
What office does he hold?
I said it would be a person that's in charge of information and propaganda. Who would that be? Goebbels. Goebbels. And that's because I'm talking about those who master the art of controlling groups from a distance, controlling your behavior, your cultural norms, knowing how to make you do what you should not be doing and enjoying it and reveling in it, which is what so many of us do. Now, the Hollywood aspect. Just wanted you to know that a collective, I wanted to get a foundation. What about Birth of a Nation? Does anybody remember that? Ever saw it? Birth of a Nation? Now, I'm not talking about the one that came out about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not talking about the 2016 version. I'm talking about the 1915 version. Birth of a Nation. Some people remember it, because I can see by the head shakes. Some people remember it. What was it about? What was it about, sis?
The rise of the Klan.
What?
Well, he said it, you know, we have an undisciplined person here, but you gave her a chance. She would have got it, but Bernard did say the birth of the Klan. It's the rise of the Klan. That's what the movie was about. Wow, Bernard, that was a good one, man. That's a good one. It was actually detailing in a cinematic way the rise of the Klan. Because as you see the thing, the Klan was the hero in this movie. And they were the ones that came in on the white horses and, you know, saved the day from black men, black wild savage men. And D.W. Griffith did this in 1915. Now, I'm not a technician when it comes to cinematic events, but even Spike said that for that time period, that was just awesome in the sense of what he was able to put on the screen and put it in such a way that it had a lightning effect. You know, now we're talking about well over 100 years ago, making a movie that's around 3 hours. It's around 3 hours.
Well, it's
3 and change.
longer than 3 hours.
It's about 3 hours and
3
20
and a half.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that, 3 hours and 20 minutes
Very
or
long.
more. It's a long movie, and so it would be challenging to sit down and watch the whole movie because it's a silent movie. We're talking about 1915. So you'd have to read subtitles and all of that. But I would suggest you watch it when you get a chance. Birth of a Nation is called. D.W. Griffith did it. He took it to the White House. And who was the president then?
I was going to just ask you that. Okay. Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow Wilson. Right from on the side of the river.
You remember what he said about
New Jersey. He said it was lightning in
That's
a
what
bottle.
he said. That's what he said.
He called it lightning in a bottle.
In a bottle. That's exactly.
And he said it's a great movie, but it's sad but true. That's what he said.
Sad, but true.
In other words, the goal of a black man, once them chains is off, is to snatch the first white woman he can and rape her. Now they showed a scene in the movie of a white woman in order to keep her dignity. You know what she did? Anybody remember? If you saw the movie?
Didn't she kill herself?
She killed herself. Exactly, Ray. Exactly, Ray. She jumped off a hill. In other words, before you can enter me, I'll kill myself. So that's like one of the highlights of the movie. That's a highlight because they're raising up the value and putting the white woman on a pedestal. So yes, it's about the rise of the Klan, but it's showing you how great white women are. That before they subject themselves to a black man, they kill themselves.
Didn't they do blackface?
Yeah, because they didn't use black actors.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not blackface when you're trying to be black. He just wasn't paying black actors. So it was white people that played it, but they were dark enough and had enough smudge
Yes.
and stuff on their faces and their arms and stuff to be black, and they were acting wild and savage. So, in other words, it was, you know, it was supposed to be us. And that's what the movie was about. And it received rave reviews from President Wilson and all the people he invited to the White House. Now, you know, Woodrow Wilson was a cold-blooded, non-apologetic racist to the core. He fired so many black folks that had jobs in the post office and things like that. And the few people that was left was separated from the whites. He believed in segregation, even on the job. So he was, and this is why some people have problems with the statues or whatever, the stuff that's still there at, you know, what was it, Rutgers? Yeah, Rutgers. I think he was the president of Rutgers before he ran for office. If it's not Rutgers, then it's Princeton. It's one of them. Sometimes I confuse the two, but it was one of them. He was the president there for quite a while, and then they talked him into run up in politics, and he became the governor, and then after that became president. But Woodrow Wilson, but in other words, Birth of a Nation was able to lift up the Klan and then show black people in the most despicable position one could imagine. Now, I would never pretend that there's not a black man alive that don't want a white woman, because we see that they are. Don't say anything right now. Don't say anything. Because I know you chomping at the bits. You know, we have a resident comedian that's here, so, you know, but,
And the good one is that
yeah. But the thing is, that's what the movie was about. The movie is about the rise of the Klan. It accentuates white values and makes the Klans heroes and makes us look like savages, worse than monkeys and gorillas. It was just, it reduced us to such a savage experience. And it was William Monroe Trotter. I'll get off subject for a second and just say it was William Monroe Trotter that fought it and literally went from city to city at his own expense trying to get that movie from being shown. This is a real strong brother that we hardly ever mention. You hardly ever hear anybody mention William Monroe Trotter. But one of the great ones, one of the true great ones, and of course he was the one that was thrown out of Woodrow Wilson's White House. He went there and argued on behalf of our people because Woodrow Wilson fired so many black people from their civil service federal jobs. And you know, like I said, the whole thing with Birth of a Nation, that he was, and that's a badge of honor for a black man to be thrown out of the White House, especially one occupied by, you know, Woodrow Wilson. It's an honor.
What?
You know, it's a badge of honor to be thrown out, because to say you had a successful meeting with him means, in the real sense, that you was kissing butt. Because that man hates your guts. Ain't gonna let you know, yeah, I'm here to undergird white supremacy. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. So to be thrown out is a good thing. I was telling Dr. Lewis it's a badge of honor to have his video stuff taken out. But I don't want them to take mine out, so. But we know why, because his information was so deadly and accurate. And I'm definitely gonna make sure I get one of those DVDs because I need that election. What about going with the wind? Let's go to another one. What, come on, I know y'all saw, y'all love Clark Gable.
I never watched it. Never watched it. Never watched it.
I see.
None of y'all saw going with the
Never
wind?
watched it. It was about the Civil
You
War.
smiling, you saw
It
it.
was about the Civil War.
You saw it.
Was it?
Yeah, all of that, all of that. Yeah, going with the wind.
Yeah, we used to talk about it.
What was that about? Anybody just, can you guess?
Well, I seen parts of it, and it was about a Civil War hero coming back to claim his boat.
That's good. That's good, that's part of it.
Oh,
That's part of it. They were in a real sense, he was a Southerner. He was part of the Confederacy, but they portrayed him as heroic. They portrayed him as a real human being. And he fell for, you call it what, a bow? His bow, what you call it?
A boat.
A bow. She was a bow, but he still looked at her in that way, but found out what some other people knew, but were trying to psychologically dismiss, is that she was black. She had white features. So phenotypically, without study, she was white. But she had a black mother. You know, a lot of white guys rape black women. That was common, especially in the part of the South he was in. I think it was it Louisiana? I think they,
All over.
stop. Oh.
no, I'm talking about where in that movie.
Oh.
You know, I think it was in New Orleans. I think, was it?
I don't think so.
No, it was another part. It was South Carolina.
South Carolina.
I thought it was.
I know it was deep south. I'm trying to. You thought it was South Carolina?
South Carolina.
Okay.
It was all over.
But yeah, that happened all over. That scenario happened all over. I was just trying to remember because his mansion was so grand, but it could very well have been because they had some big ones like that in South Carolina. I was just thinking New Orleans because it was just so well done. But in any event, it shows him in a more humanistic way, and the drama to it, all part of the story, was that she was black. What about, Ray, when you get a chance, can I get a water? Yeah. What about Bill Bojangles Robinson
Oh, wow.
dancing with Shirley Temple? Anybody seen any of the movies?
I probably saw it when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
You saw?
When I was a little kid, my godparents.
What's the image in that? What's being portrayed now? In all these movies, there's no movie that's just a movie. Can we agree with that? Every movie is saying something.
Is that really saying that he was in servitude to a little white girl?
I'm asking you.
No, that was Stephen Fetcher.
What? It wasn't Stephen Fetcher. It was Bojangles. Thank you, man. The Bojangles. Now, what was their message? There are plenty, but just give me, in your opinion, one. What was Bojangles? He was dancing with Shirley Temple. Now, as you well know, Bojangles, in his prime, was one of the all-time great dancers.
There you go.
All right?
The best.
One of the greatest.
One of the great.
I'm not going to say the best, only because them guys were phenomenal. You know, if you look at, some of those old black movies, and you see some of these guys dancing,
Yeah.
it's hard to say who the best was. They have to
Well,
fight it out. You know what I mean?
So many.
There was so many.
Same timing and everything. They had it
But
going.
Bojangles was one of the best.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree with that, and one of the most famous, because even as an old guy, them steps were phenomenal. He put a young person to shame, trying to dance with him, and he was an old man when he was dancing with Shirley Temple. But it was trying to, his greatness, which everyone understood. everybody knew how great he was being passed on to her. A little white child is good enough to dance with Bojangles. You're like, what?
Yeah, right.
How could she dance with Bojangles? The man's feet were phenomenal. He had certain skips and steps that even his contemporaries couldn't do. But here this little white girl is allowed to dance with him, and they did a scene, you know, wonderful scene, going down steps. You know, Bojangles could dance anyway. He'd go up and down stairs. A zitty, bop, a bop. And she looks at it and does it.
And take off and do it, yeah.
You know? And he'll do a thing and spin and come back and do something, and he'll look and laugh, and then she'll do it.
Well, she was so.
So she's being equated as a little white girl like this, that she's down here, and can do with Bojangles.
She was equal.
Ain't no black girl couldn't do that, right?
No,
She was
nobody-
equal.
no other little girl on the planet can do that but her. In other words, black men who've lived in Africa for millions of years can't communicate
But then,
with elephants and lions and cheetah and all that stuff, but Tarzan can. Tarzan just got there, fell out of a plane or something. It was a plane crash, I believe, and
Yeah.
you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a plane
That
crash.
was his mother and
And they died. And a super ape, a female ape, I forgot her name, she raised him. So I don't know how he could speak, but he learned how to speak English. You know, boy, girl, and all this other stuff. So he can communicate with,
the animals.
especially elephants. If he do his, you know, elephants come running. And he can command them, and he could fight crocodiles and all that stuff. And he had permission from God, I guess, to swing from trees. No African ever swung from a tree in any of his movies. That was just designated for Tarzan.
Right.
So if he want to go somewhere, he's swinging from tree to tree, but Africans is walking. But that's, you know, these superhuman qualities that he exhibited in those movies were given to him, not to any African. And I've seen a scene, and I will admit, when I was little, I was cheering for him, because he dropped from the trees into the midst of, let's say, 6, 7 Africans. And they came at him, and he kicked their butts. And the last one, he actually kicked him in his behind while he ran. I mean, and here I am,
That's a movie.
little kid.
I'm looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, Tarzan. And he kicking an African, and I'm clapping for him. You know, but you know,
Still a movie.
it's a movie, but it's more than a movie.
Yeah, well, I see.
You know, it's more than a movie. I once asked some young people who was on the line in a movie theater, and it was the Superman that Richard Pryor was in. It was the one that he was in, and I asked them, they were on the line, I said, what y'all on the line to see? With so many young kids there. And they said, no, we had to see Superman. I think it was Superman 2 or 3. 3, I think. That's the one where Richard Pryor was in. And I said, well, would y'all go to see Superman if Superman was black?
Oh, Lord.
Do you know what one of the kids said to me? I'm not going to repeat it the way he said it. He said, come on, man, you know no ends can fly. That's what he said.
No niggers.
But he actually never seen a white man fly.
So a little child told me, man, you know no N words can fly. So he's already at a young age have already ascribed superhuman qualities. If there's one that exists that's gonna have that person's gonna be white. And he can psychologically accept that. But for a black person to do that, it would have to be a comedy where he can laugh at it. It can't be serious. So, but in any event, I don't know what I was saying, but I was talking about Bojangles, I think. So that's the image of Bojangles. What about Stepin Fetchit? Y'all remember Stepin Fetchit? What was he known for? Cooning. Cooning. Yes. He was known for cooning. It made him one of the richest people in Hollywood. He was one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. I think he was the highest at one time. Cooning. Scratching his head, saying stupid, crazy things. Oh, I'm so tired. And boss this, boss that. Oh, they love him. So you know Stepin Fetchit. Okay, what about well, let me give you his whole name, and I gotta read it because his real name, most people not even familiar with it. We always call him Stepin Fetchit, but that was just his stage name. His real name was Lincoln Theodore Monroe Andrew Pep. Okay, that was his real name. What about Rochester?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, what about Rochester?
What about Rochester? Y'all laugh when his eyes got like this. You know, and his feet is moving, and he ain't even moving, but his feet is moving. Make you laugh, Rochester. What about Mantan? Same thing. Same thing. And what about Stymie? Stymie from Bed-Stuy.
Spanky, the Little Rascals.
What about Stymie?
Stymie, the black one with the thing in his head, sticking
what-
up in his head. Well, that was the little weapon.
What about Buckwheat? When I see your names, it just makes you.
Same thing, Little Rascals.
Buckwheat and alfalfa.
The big guy.
They made him like he was an ignorant little dude. That's how they made him look.
They made him look stupid. In other words, in one scene I remember, Buckwheat was hiding, Dr. Lewis. He's hiding in a chicken coop. And Spanky, or one of them, is knocking on the chicken coop, saying, Buckwheat, are you in there? You know what he said? No. I'm not in here. Ain't nobody in here but us chickens.
No, it's who say who that when I say who that?
Who's that?
Buckwheat. Who say who that when I say who that?
So I'm just saying, they had these routines that,
it was.
it was funny in that era, and I'm sure people laughed, but it was meant to draw laughter to show how stupid he is, because if you hide from somebody and somebody's knocking on the door, you're supposed to say nothing. Just be quiet. And so when they said, Buckwheat, are you in there? He said, no, I ain't in here. Ain't nobody in here but us chickens. And that was the punchline. So, but in any event, that's the stuff we went through. Now let me ask you about another movie. I know we showed. Okay, it's almost 9. What about The Godfather? What was The Godfather about?
Dropping drugs off into the black community, right?
No, that wasn't what the movie was
The
about.
historical context of the Italian family.
What is The Godfather about? What was it about?
Family.
Mafia?
It's about family.
Exactly. He just said it.
The
Godfather was about family. Now, drugs, prostitution, and all this other stuff. That wasn't what the movie was about. Those are ancillary things, peripheral things. It was about family. This was the love of a family that was struggling to survive in America. They came from the island of Sicily under rough conditions and was able to come here and survive under harsh conditions. That's what The Godfather was
They
about.
let it-
And that's why to this day, that was done in 72. So 28, 21, that's 49 years. And that's still held as one of the greatest movies of all time. That movie is 49 years old, and for the past few weeks on Showtime, they've been showing Godfather 1, Godfather 2, and Godfather 3. So it was about love. It's a love story, a love of family. Love of family and tradition. So Italians don't get mad when you watch the movie. When you talk about the movie, they don't get mad because they understand what it is. It's about love and family. Now, there's some other things in it. There's some other things too. However, it's about love.
Who said what?
Go ahead.
I never had that point of view.
I
Of
know.
that movie. Where did you get this? Is this what?
Okay, no, that's a good question. And even though it's not Q&A yet, let me just say this. You have to understand the storyline.
I understood.
The storyline is about family. It starts out
It starts out.
with a child who witnessed his father being killed. That's where it starts out. Vito Andolini was his name. Watched his father killed, and then during the funeral for his father, his older brother was killed by that same Don, who was the local chief. Killed his brother. He was the only one left. The mother went to that local Don and said, "This is all I got, is him." Said, "You've killed my husband. You've killed my oldest son. This is all I got. He's dim-witted. Let him live. He's weak and he's dim-witted." And the Don said, no. He gotta go. Because he might be dim-witted and weak now, but he's gonna be strong enough to take revenge one day. So he understood that the kid understood family. Got to preserve the family. So what happened? The people got together and got him out of there. Snuck him out of Sicily and brought him to America. And he started out, and before you know it, he had his own family and developed from that. And then you seen his carbon copy, which was his youngest son, Michael, take over. His brother was killed. And then his other brother was killed by Michael, ultimately. But it just shows you, with all the trials and tribulations that he went through, it was showing how a family has to exist. Even though it's going to get ugly, it showed you what family is, what true, and nothing can get in between them. It's just an awesome testament. And that's why Italians love it, even though some of the people around Southern said, well, they were selling drugs. They was doing prostitution. They was gambling. They were doing all this other stuff. But that wasn't what the movie was about. The movie was about family. And,
I've never heard that point of view before. I've never
understood.
heard of family.
Understood. Well, think about it.
It's about
And when you see it again, think about it.
Organized crime.
But you're right. You're right.
Now, and just quickly, right before the break, we almost up on the break. The Billie Holiday movie. Any of y'all saw that?
Yeah.
The last one. I'm not talking about the one with Diana Ross. I'm talking about the recent one.
That's what I
Okay.
Versus the United States.
Well, that one, with that movie, it destroyed her character. You wouldn't even believe that she was Lady Day. Wasn't nothing ladylike about her in that movie. If you look at that movie, yeah, she could sing, she could perform, but if she wasn't singing and she wasn't shooting dope, her butt was up in the air, butt naked, and somebody was enjoying her. It's just the way they destroy our icons. It's incredible. And so they did a job on that movie. Oh my goodness. You wouldn't call her Lady Day if you didn't know better. Because hatchet job and it is just incredible. And just before we break, what about Black Panther? What did y'all see in Black Panther? Now the reason I'm saying it because when I get to this criminal justice part, I want to see what y'all see because I want y'all to open your eyes more and see essence, context, perspective, self-image. And all this is going to come out of your own self-image of what you perceive the world to be and how you look at yourself. Because Italians, when they see the Godfather, they understand what love is. Did you see the scene, for example, did you see the scene where Michael kissed his father's hand while his body was riddled with bullets? And before that, wanted nothing to do with the family. Nothing. In other words, that criminal side. He went to college, was also a war hero. What did he do when he saw his father in a bed helpless and these guys was coming to kill him? And his brother didn't even know about it.
Well, that represents the Pope.
No Pope.
He kissed the ring?
He kissed his hand and said, I'm with you. I'm with you now.
You kissed the ring.
He said it clearly, I'm with you now. In other words, for them no good bees to do this to you, no, you need me with you. I'm with you now. And that's what the movie was about, family. You know, so Black Panther real quick, before we break.
I think that was about Black Power. Actually, Black empowerment.
Black empowerment, I agree.
Well, I like the Black Panther because
I'm not asking what
it was
you
the
like or not.
first black hero I've seen.
Okay, he was a black hero. Anything else?
You didn't see Spawn?
Anything else?
I think it was Thomas and
Black Panther was about family and possibilities. Families with respect to when they show you, I mean, when you see that ritual they went through, which goes back to his father, to his father, to his father.
Yeah.
That was deep, man.
Yeah.
And then it's showing you the possibilities of what the African mind can do, bereft of white power.
That's right. Outside.
So it's showing you family, a strong sense of family, and it's showing you the possibilities of African genius. You understand what I'm saying? So we gotta understand what the true meaning, and I'm still to this day taken back and can't understand why they didn't have, why they allowed that image to come through. Yes, quick, real quick.
I was
Not a statement.
Go ahead.
Oh, we'll hold it to the Q&A. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to respond to one or two things. Okay, we're on Black Panther, and Black Panther, Hollywood always puts in something negative concerning us. Because we know what the FBI does. So you said you felt it was derogatory.
We're gonna get into this on
They were
Q&A.
trying to make it seem as if the Americans against the Africans. Divide and conquer has always been their goal.
Okay. But in any event, I saw it as family and possibilities, that what we can do without white interruption and intervention, how great we could possibly be. Now, when we come back, I'm going to get into the criminal justice part and how that weighs into all this. Right now, I've just been dealing with more image and more psychological things. Why we do what we do and what is being imposed on us from the outside and how we can correct that. But after this part, I'll deal with the criminal aspects and with the court system and all we're doing to us, and some of that is to our own undoing that we're participating in it. But we'll talk about that in the next part, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have a 10-minute recess.
Wow.
Okay, Rashid.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, family. Give me some hand. I hope you enjoyed the refreshments and everything. Now we're gonna come back. Mike is gonna continue to about 9:30, or when he does the question and answer on Zoom. If you want a question, just raise your hand and unmute yourself and you'll ask a question. So we're gonna turn the meeting back over to Brother Mike. Thank you very much.
Let's go. Just a couple of things about movies. In the 1950s and 60s, the preeminent black actors were Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte. I won't spend too much time on this, just a couple of minutes just to catch up, and then we're gonna go on to criminal justice and stuff. But in the 70s, it was Richard Roundtree, Jim Brown, and Richard Pryor. That's when he started making his entree into movies. 1980s, it was Eddie Murphy, Denzel. In the 80s, they were the two biggest at that time. It wasn't that Sidney Poitier disappeared, it's just that he wasn't working as much. And by the 90s, it was Denzel, Wesley Snipes, and which corner was getting his foot in the game? Samuel L. Jackson. Just saying that to say that, you know, if you compare that to what we had in Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee, and like I said, and even with Sidney Poitier, always was a class act in terms of the roles he played. You know, always a class act. That does not dismiss, but at least he was a class act in the movies. You know, his, you know, whatever, his stuff with white women, that's different.
Now that first movie he did, oh man, No Way Out. I don't know how he did that role, man.
No, that was a strong role. That was significant
Well,
to
I mean,
play
it
a
was
doctor.
strong role, brother, but the white man, you know, spit in his face.
Yeah, but you can ask that on question and answer.
Yeah. So, you know, we all have that, understand that, and if you look at the diminution of gospel music, which we should all know, gospel music used to have messages, you know, wading in the water, you know, follow the drinking gourd, you know, and go down Moses, you know, things like that. You know, we know what the drinking gourd is, right? You know, enslaved Africans understood that the formation of the stars, it was almost like a drinking gourd, you know, the North Star. And so they sung that song so you would understand that at night, even if you were in the wilderness, just keep going north.
That's right.
You know, so those kind of messages, you know, go down Moses and things like that, and other songs, we don't have that today. They talking today about, you know, how many guns and how many diamonds they wearing, and all this stuff about the cars and the women, and how many how much rock they used to sling back in the day, and how when they come and everybody hit the floor and all this stuff. So, you know, it's a whole different dynamic that we're involved in now, as opposed to back then. But in any event, it's not as inspirational. I'm not saying that there's no inspiration, because obviously the words and the singing gospel lead you to God and God's experience, you know. But we have to also understand that there was a message in that music, and that message is not the same now as it was back then. So let's get on to and we had in the music while we were doing that, the Culture Bandits, of course, Pat Boone. Who was he trying to imitate? I'll just, with respect to time, it was Pat Boone. He was trying to, Pat Boone was trying to be Little Richard, pardon me. And he couldn't be, you know, there's nowhere in the world he could emulate Little Richard. And Elvis Presley was trying to do Chuck Jackson and Jackie Wilson, which is an impossibility. They were just too great. And the other one, the Beatles, obviously was trying to beat the Temptations, but just didn't happen. But in any event, let's move on to law enforcement. And the reason why I was talking about self-image so much and about how you see things and understanding context is because, let's take a few steps. Corey Gaines, we remember that? You remember Corey Gaines?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now Corey Gaines was killed by Baltimore SWAT. In this particular case, you're talking about a sister who there was a warrant that was converted from a summons. In other words, you know the whole thing, but you don't need to have a law enforcement background to understand what a summons is. You can get a summons for a traffic violation, you can get it for a whole host of things. So she got a summons, did not appear in court, was trying to find out what her court date was to fight the ticket. That didn't happen. Consequently, they intentionally converted it into a warrant. And they came to her house, which never happens. That's just unusual, to say the least. Came to her house, armed to the teeth, and unfortunately, SWAT came. Now, when does SWAT come to somebody's house for you because you didn't pay a summons? This was a setup, this was vicious, this would never happen to a white young mother, 23 years old, especially with her 5-year-old child present with her at that time. And they killed her straight up. They came in the back and killed her, which I thought at one time that it was from the window, but actually...
I thought that was a no-knock warrant.
Well, this wasn't a no-knock warrant. They actually came there with an arrest in mind. It wasn't a no-knock warrant. They came there actually to kill her, and this went into, let's say, about 5 hours. 4 or 5 hours, and that's when they killed her. They was trying to get, her boyfriend was there with her. The boyfriend actually left with the toddler. The baby was probably about 1 or somewhere thereabouts, 1, left, and I don't understand how you can leave your girlfriend in there knowing you're surrounded by police officers, but he did that, and the SWAT officer killed her and wounded the 5-year-old just out of meanness. And we saw that live on FaceTime.
Facebook.
That would never happen to a white woman over a traffic summons. Killed outright. What about Camila Brock, real quick? Because I want to show you how we hear these things and we're so narcotized by nonsense. We are so insensitive now, and literally things happen in plain sight and they don't even fear you're going to do anything about it. All of these black elected officials we have, all these civil rights organizations, Camila Brock, late 20s, driving in Harlem. She gets stopped because she's dancing at a red light in the car. And it was a late model BMW, literally brand new almost. And they just, 2 cops stopped her, made it an issue, accused her of the car, accused her of the car being stolen. The car wasn't stolen. So took her in, and so once they established the car wasn't stolen, and that she was actually a bank manager at her early age, she was a manager. They took her to a psychological unit in a hospital because they couldn't arrest her. They put her in a psychological unit and drugged her for 8 days. Where else but in America could this happen?
Did she lose
To
her
an
job
innocent
behind her?
person? What's that?
Did she lose her job behind her?
No, she didn't lose her job. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, the job was supportive, and she was able to obviously put in a lawsuit against the police department. But real quickly, what about Eleanor Bumpers? I'm trying to move fast, so I'm gonna do Q&A.
I just have one question.
No, hold on. Hold on till 9:30. Quickly, Eleanor Bumpers, y'all remember that?
Sure.
Yes.
66, 67,
With a knife.
68-year-old grandmother.
82.
And
Harlem.
in the Bronx.
Bronx.
But in any event, just real quickly, over 300 pounds, chronic arthritis, 2 months behind in her rent, and she has to die for that.
No.
6 emergency service police officers come to her door telling her she has to evacuate the premises. That's what it's come down to. Just call her daughter. The daughter didn't know she was behind in her rent. So in any event, they became judge, jury, and ultimately executioner. Killed her, 2 shotgun blasts. The first one took off her hand. They claimed she had a knife in her hand, waving a knife. If you're 300 pounds with chronic arthritis, how much can you move anyway? I mean, if you wanted to, if need be, you couldn't unarm her. After all, you're emergency service cops. You're trained. What about Omar Edwards? Y'all remember him? Black cop in Harlem, just got off duty and was walking to his car, just left the precinct. And allegedly someone was breaking into his car, and 3 plainclothes cops came by in a vehicle, so-called mistaken identity, and shot him, killed him. Officer Dutton, who's a sergeant now, police, he's at least a sergeant now, Dutton killed him. But miraculously, Dutton claims that they were both facing each other with guns in hand, but all of Omar Edwards' wounds were in his back. It flew. So we took that one. And one of the only organizations that was fighting for justice for Omar Edwards was 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Care. Everybody went along with the script, and I won't even go into the other parts because I would tell you the family members and all that other stuff and where they ended up in the thing. But I'll just move on. That's a subject for another day. But I'm just saying the playbook that the NYPD has is so extensive. They have an answer to every situation you can imagine. And if you're not aware, I mean really aware, not just woke. You can be woke but not be aware. I'm talking about aware, not woke. Then the game will work on you. So, what about John White? Anybody remember John White?
Yeah.
Black man,
I'm
works
6-figure
hard,
banker.
Long Island, gets his dream house one day out there in Whitelandia. That's all the way. If you take that LIE, he's all the way out there near the end. Out there, got a nice mansion, bigger than most of those other houses. His house was bigger and better than even the houses that encircled his. And son, you know, trying to adjust to white society out there. His younger son, because his older son totally different. But the younger one wanted to have white friends, and, you know, maybe even, I guess, white girlfriends, what happened. I won't go too much into it, but suffice it to say that they moved on him, came up there to his property, threatening to rape his wife and kill his son.
Oh,
And
yeah. I remember that.
And he had a gun.
Yeah.
He had a gun, and a white guy tried to take it out of his hand. He tried to be Moses Powell, and there's only one Moses.
That's right.
Tried to take the gun, and he ended up with a bullet in his head. And they accused John White of killing him. I say he killed himself.
Self-defense.
He killed himself. You know, there's only one Moses.
That's right.
Moses take the gun right out your hand. he couldn't do it.
So,
And paid the price. So in any event, John White was accused and had to go to trial for people coming to his house. Coming to his house, threatening his wife and his son.
He had to go to trial.
And they weren't charged with anything. What about Chanel Lewis, real quick? Real quick, because I'm running out of time. Remember Chanel Lewis?
Yeah, the young,
Because
young
they didn't
black
kill
man.
him. No, they didn't kill him. The reason why I know is one person to my left that knows it is because she brought it to our attention.
What a mother is.
She brought her mother here. As a matter of fact, yes. Deidre brought the mother here because 100 Blacks, we had dealt with it early on, the first trial. You brought it to our attention about the second trial. That it was a hung jury, consequently they had to do it again. Now, he was accused of killing a white woman, and anybody that, if you just look at him, you can see he didn't do it. And they didn't have anybody else they chose to do with him. They had they had DNA from 2 European males
That's right.
on her body.
That's right.
And they said, no, it's got to be a black man. And a lieutenant who had saw
Is that Queens?
Chanel
Yes, yes.
Howard Beach.
a lieutenant saw him walking around in the summertime with a light sweater on with a hood. And he said, that's strange. A black man wearing a hood is strange. So he followed him on his day off, a lieutenant. On his day off, actually followed him for half hour, 45 minutes. And ended up losing him because Chanel wasn't doing anything wrong. So the next day, he saw him again and followed him again. And this time, in following him, when he saw a car go by, he flagged down a police car and told 2 officers, search it, which they did. There was nothing on him. He wasn't doing anything wrong. And they took his name. Well, they ended up charging him with months later, like about 6 months later, when they didn't have anybody and couldn't find a person.
Her father found his body.
Yes, that's correct. He's right about that. The father found his body, which shows you something ain't right, because if police officers are out there in that marshland, those swamps, how did he go straight to where the body was?
Yeah, that's
right.
But nobody else could find it.
Right.
All the police officers out there looking for her, and he rushes out there and goes right to where her body was. And then intentionally touches her and touches her watch and all this other stuff to put his DNA on it.
Right.
But in any event, that only shows you the criminal justice system in America. And real quick, the same thing
Andrew in
happened
court.
with DSK, which I won't even go. He was accused of rape, but DSK, Dominic Strauss-Kahn, as you know, was in line to be the next president of France. He rapes a black woman in a hotel in Midtown Manhattan, and he was able to beat the charges in, and there was black complicity in that. All the people that are on the payroll had to help one way or another, because here you had Michael Bloomberg, one of the most powerful Jews in the world, watching the Jew doing a perp walk. And he was upset about that and suspended all perp walks for a while. Y'all know what a perp walk is?
No. What?
Okay, a perp walk is when you see the scene of a person walking out of the precinct, they'll have the 2 cops walking with them and putting them in a car. That's done, all the time. And basically, he just could not tolerate watching a fellow Jew, rich like him, a billionaire like him, being perp walked. So in any event, she got paid down the road, but I got too many here, so I won't even go on all of them because time is almost tight, but I will mention something. I'm gonna take
The slight
5 minutes
earthquake
real
that-
quick. I wanna just mention this, and then if you want to ask, we'll get into it. Just wanted to mention, last week, you know about the decision. Nobody's saying what decision, because y'all all know what I'm talking about. There was a verdict last week. Now, in this verdict, Chauvin was found guilty of all three, 2 homicide charges and 1 manslaughter charge. Right, 2nd degree. He was found guilty. After he was found guilty, because I'm talking about perspective and challenging your ability to see things as they are. After that, there was a press conference that followed. And I've never seen anything like this in my life. 2 hours. For 2 hours, you had attorneys, you had family members, you had civil rights leaders, all coalesce together, and for the next 2 hours, give kudos to each other, hand clapping, back slapping, fist bumping, hugging, and kissing each other, telling each other how great a job they did. Commercial free. You've never seen anything like this in your life. This was a coronation. Well, if it was a coronation, who was being made into a king? Reverend Shaw. They put a crown on his head that night. And all y'all saw it or saw excerpts of it and didn't realize what you was looking at. White America was telling every black man, every black woman, this is your leader. That's what was being said. He was being coronated, king. You had Benjamin Crump was being crowned as the point leader of Black America with respect to, he was introduced as the Attorney General of Black America by Reverend Sharpton. Reverend Sharpton called him, he said, I know that there's an Attorney General, a U.S. Attorney General, but the Attorney General for Black America is Benjamin Crump. He didn't say Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, Scipio Africanus. He didn't say those names. He didn't say Attorney Gray, who's Dr. King's. He didn't say Thurgood Marshall. He didn't even say Johnny Cotton. He didn't say Alton Maddox is the attorney at war. He said he called him the attorney at war also, not that night, but other times. He called him the attorney at war. It was the attorney at war that got Sharpton off. A 67 out of a 70 count indictment. Alone, without calling one witness. Beat back 67 counts. Was done by Alton Maddox.
For free.
And he calls another man the attorney at war. Sharpton was still be in jail to this day.
Doing push-ups.
Clayton Jones was the one that said Sharpton was guilty of sin. But the brilliance of Alton Maddox got him off. So now he's calling this man all of this. Now, Benjamin Crump to me is nothing but a settlement czar. Yes, you heard it here. He is a settlement czar. He is not the attorney general.
I call him an ambulance chaser.
Well, he's worse than that. He's the settlement czar. He's not fighting for anybody. He got 2 settlements back to back for $27 million. You understand that? Y'all do know he got 2 back to back. Both of them were $27 million. You know the cases, right?
Yeah,
George Floyd.
Yes.
He's the ambulance chaser.
Rihanna?
Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
Right back to back. Now this last one, this 27 million he got, it was before the criminal trial. Now the one for Breonna Taylor, there was no trial. No trial for the people that killed her. They weren't charged at all. How were they on a stage congratulating each other when they did absolutely nothing? Keith Ellison, one of the only Muslims ever in Congress, who white America went crazy when he swore himself into Congress on a Quran instead of the Bible. White America went bananas. Well, they didn't go bananas once he told them that this is Thomas Jefferson's Quran. Now they had to back up because we talk about a president now. But they went bananas. How dare you swear yourself in on the Quran? He said, well, this Quran belongs to Thomas Jefferson. Your hero. Well, they couldn't say anything after that. You know, it was TJ's. So, in any event, you saw a press conference unprecedented. 2 hours commercial free where they adorned and coronated these two black men. Now Keith Ellison, the actual one who put together the prosecution team, he had one small snippet before it started where he introduced his team and basically said, you know, we did our job. That's basically, and he got off. And then Sharpton came and spoke, did a prayer. You know, as a matter of fact, you know that he gets all of the eulogies now. Like he's a real preacher. He don't have a church, he's not a real reverend.
Never had a congregation.
Never. But he's now does that. So he's being coronated as the leader of Black America. If your family dies, Crump's going to get you the money. Sharpton's going to preach the funeral. It's a team. It's a team. So that's what they're basically saying. But I'm going to open it up to Q&A now because I went past the time that I was.
Yeah, I would ask a question.
I just had to mention that real quick that you've never seen that in your life. And you might not see it again, but you have to understand what you're looking at. White America, he's the Attorney General for white America. That's what Ben Crump is. They support him. They put him in front of you and made him your leader in plain sight, and we accept that. That's why he can go from state to state and be their attorney. No other lawyer can do that. He has an honorary status that's been given to him where no police department in America has a problem with Benjamin Crump. What? That's right. Because he doesn't go after police officers. He wants a settlement. He's a settlement czar. That's who he is, the settlement czar. And that's what he does. He's just like the guy in A Few Good Men that negotiated all of those things for the Marines.
You would ask some
and
questions.
he never went into the courtroom. Go ahead, Gus.
All right, I got two questions.
No statements.
All right,
Questions.
what
Short
is the aspect what they're trying to outlaw is a no-knock warrant? What are the aspects of that?
They're trying to stop no-knocks warrants simply because there are so many errors. So many people have lost their life. What's the name on the tip of my tongue? Right here in Harlem. I forgot the sister's name. They did a flash bomb in her house when they came in. She caught a heart attack and died. There are just too many times they've come into people's house with no knocks and didn't do their homework and it was the wrong person. So no one should have to go through that. A no-knock warrant. You can come at a certain time and still get the same results without that.
Since we're on warrants, I understand if you got a spitting on the sidewalk ticket, it's a warrant.
No, it's a summons.
No.
It's a summons over
you don't-
time
right.
that will convert it into a
Absolutely.
warrant. It's not a warrant because if you go pay it, if you go pay the fine,
Got
it's
it.
over.
Right. So if you spit on the sidewalk, you get a ticket, you don't pay it, you got a warrant.
You know, not normally you don't, because the one that happened to Dante Wright, that was almost 4 years ago. He was 20 when he was killed. When that happened, I think he might have been 16. You know, so imagine yourself spitting on a platform, you know, a train, a platform, and for whatever reason you get a summons for that. And it's so lightweight that you don't even pay attention to it, and the court date, whatever you missed it.
No, that's not the
Go ahead.
question I was asking. It's, regardless of what you do, if you don't pay the ticket or settle the violation, you get a warrant. For armed robbery, they don't catch you, they got a warrant out for you. Is there a way that you can color code these warrants? So if a guy's getting a ticket for, you know, drinking a beer on a sidewalk, and another guy's got a murder charge,
Open container.
can't you just say green is like, this is nonsense, yellow is like, this guy's mildly violent, and then red is like,
Of course.
why don't they do that? Because you pulling over guys for
Well,
nothing,
you
and
acting
then
as
like,
if
they
you-
shot that kid in the back of the head.
Right, but you acting as if the intent is moral. It's not based on morals.
No,
It's not based on anything
can we
that-
change that? We know this is immoral.
Can a mayor, can a city council, can elected officials
Right.
change that? Of course they can.
So why can't we work on
It
it?
shouldn't even be a database on that. They do that after the fact. Giuliani was good for being able to, if there was a dirty shooting, he's gonna go into your background and find out you fought somebody in high school, and he'll just break that part of the record. So whatever you did in your youth, things that are sealed, he would unseal it to make you look a little bad. So those kind of things, yes, of course that can be done. That's easy. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't even be on your record. You should be allowed to, of course, at any point, pay it and be made aware that you never paid that ticket from years ago, and that if you don't pay it, it can be converted into a warrant.
Go ahead, Lady B.
That's economics, because it's these Sambo and other people that put it in progress in the first place. Because if
Quick
they
statement
were
of
actually following the Constitution, this shouldn't be. It's these people that we're putting into office, they getting money for it, so, you know, it's,
Yes.
you know.
I agree.
I just want to make a statement.
He said a question. All right. Brother Avery on the Zoom, unmute yourself and ask Mike the question.
Yeah, how you doing, Ray?
All right.
Yeah, Brother Mike, I think you were with UAM at the time. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was somewhere in the range of around the mid-2000s.
Okay, what's your question?
I'm trying to get to it. When
Right.
UAM got off of the ground and tried to get made a political party in New York City, the Freedom Party.
Yes.
Now, I was one of the persons of many who went and got petitions, so I know that everything was done legitimately so that we could get this party. All that we got
Question.
names.
Appreciate you, brother.
The way that it went down, the party should have been something that came to life as a political entity in New York City.
Yes.
Somehow it was sabotaged, I'll say.
Yes, sir.
You talk about that and what happened with that.
Okay, let me say real quickly that the Freedom Party, some people in this room played a role in it and made it successful. However, there were checkpoints and stops along the way. The Democratic Party, their acolytes moved against it. Other black organizations was paid to move against it. Civil rights organizations were paid to move against it. We didn't have friends. We could not get the radio exposure. We could not get the TV exposure that we were in need of because the lack of funding. Consequently, everybody under the sun was being utilized to destroy the concept of a black independent freedom party here in New York City. They would do everything under the sun to make sure that doesn't happen.
Quick side question to that. Was this person that you mentioned recently that was crowned or coronated, did he have a hand in it as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's
He was given over $7 million to make sure it didn't happen. Next question.
Anybody? Anybody in here?
But we could still put it in front of us.
Anybody got a question in the group? Anybody? All right, anybody from Zoom want to ask a question? Sister Keisha, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, when you were talking about old Hollywood and the movie Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
First, let me say that it took place in Savannah, Georgia.
Okay, Georgia. Okay.
Could you explain the correlation between those Hollywood films and the many kings that you just mentioned? How do they correlate together?
The main kings?
Yes, like you just said, Al Sharpton and Big Crump
Yes.
crowned the kings
Yes.
of black society.
Yes.
Right? Now, in those movies that you mentioned, you also said that those black men in those films were degraded. Right?
Okay, Hollywood has a vested interest in destroying the image of black people. So this is why you got whether it's the Little Rascals, whether it's Tarzan, whether it's Mantan, Stepin Fetchit, Rochester, all these images were degrading us being butlers and maids and all this stuff. This is all part of a process. So Sidney and others was really like a battering ram. He was one of the first ones to play strictly dignified roles as doctors, lawyers, police officer, FBI agent. He was one of the few guys that were able to keep really dignified roles, and Belafonte and some others. And so it got to a point where now Denzel has played literally everything, CIA, FBI. That's only because of what Sidney did. But these guys that were coronated the other day, it was done in plain sight to tell every black man and woman in America that now these are your leaders. So Reverend Sharpton was made king. And now the settlement czar has been made a leader, someone that we supposed to respect as the champion of civil rights, as the champion of law enforcement, because he was being called the Attorney General for Black America. He is far from that. He is an Attorney General for white America. That's what he is.
Any questions in the room? Anybody? Anybody? Anybody got a question on the Zoom?
Yes, question.
Okay, who's speaking?
John.
All right, Brother John, ask Mike your question, please.
Was that a justified shooting of the 16-year-old girl with the knife in Ohio, I think last week, who they killed?
No, it wasn't a justified murder, because even if you place a weapon in her hand, there's still no reason to shoot her 4 times. And that's what I got from it. It is similar to Daunte Wright, who was getting ready to make an exit. Let's say he was trying to get away from the police. That's not that bad when you have a name, you have the name, you have his address, you have his license, you have all of those things. So even if he was to leave, you get him at a later date. But the thing we got to see in Daunte Wright's shooting was that the woman Potter, Kim Potter, was actually, when she said, taser, 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 we looking at that, well, she thought it was a taser, which is why she said that, and so obviously this is an accident. No, sir.
No.
If you look at it, she was telling them police officers to move out of her way. When she said, taser, 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 it was two cops in front of her. She made them split, so now she had a clear runway to shoot him. So, obviously, Black America, we are so confused, we listen to what Chief Gannon said. Chief Gannon said it was an accident, so we view it as an accident. No, sir, I want you to wipe away the dust out of our eyes and look at that situation for what it was. A 26-year veteran, a training officer, the president of that police union. Everybody was under her. She even had a police officer that was with her that she was training. She can't mistake a duty weapon for a taser. Because first of all, and I want you to understand this, her power side is her right side. So the gun is front load, her holster is fronted. When you have a taser, you have it rear loaded because you reach across your body and you can pull it out of the holster because your grip, your handle grip is right there. Well, when you have a taser, she didn't have it that way. She had it where it's front-sided, so you would have to use your left hand to grab your taser. I hope you understand what I'm saying. She didn't use it. The gun was in her right hand the entire time, so she's trying to get those police officers who were trying to cuff Wright to move out of her way. How did she accomplish that? She said, taser, 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 and they moved. When they moved, she lit him up. That was a call to the police to move out of my damn way. That's what she was doing. But Chief Gannon said it was an accident, so we go along with it. We got leaders all over the country that went along with it because she said taser, taser, taser. Then she said, oh shit, I just shot. So,
Any questions?
that's not an accident.
I got one right.
Brother Roger, you have a question?
So, that's an interesting point there. So you got two cops in her way. She's screaming taser, taser,
She's
taser.
behind them.
She's behind them. Didn't the cops see that she had a gun out?
Why do you think they move? If she's hollering taser, you do this, you moving out the way. Can you see this?
But if they move out the way, don't they see that she doesn't have a taser and she has a gun in her hand?
Yeah.
And why did they stop her from that?
How do you stop somebody that's got a gun in their hand?
Hey, don't shoot that kid.
They were down with it.
They should be, what I'm trying to get to is that they should be charged too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Alright,
What's your question?
since this new video, since everybody got a video now with the camera, this has been going on for 400 years.
Yes.
How come now, because of the video, did now,
Look,
Yes.
Keith Ellison is the one that prosecuted Derek Chauvin. The other person, the Danielle Frazier, she is the real hero in this. She videotaped George Floyd being killed.
That young girl.
Was she coronated? 17 years old.
They give her no money.
She wasn't coronated. She's the one that did it. If it wasn't for her video, no one in this room would even know who George Floyd was. He'd just be another black cat that got killed. And nowhere in the report did they say that a knee was on his neck. And that's the official report. That's why I'm saying it's not only police officers, it's medical examiners. That one who testified for the defense, the one from Maryland, that came up to the case and testified on Chauvin's behalf. He's been covering dirt in Maryland for years. That's why now they're going to do an investigation to what he did, and we should not be surprised by that, because Elliot Gross did the same thing here in New York, covering police officers. It was Alton Maddox who found out that he took the eyeballs out of the sockets of Stewart, because the cops beat him so bad he had blood clots in his eyes. So it was Elliot Gross that took the eyeballs out of his eyes, soaked them in solution so the eyes would clear up, put them back in his head, but it was exposed by Alton Maddox. That's a real lawyer.
Lady B? Lady B?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, I wanted to know why people are not even looking at the fact that this man had, they said 18 prior.
22.
That's exactly what I
22.
was told by. Okay. Tell me why they're not pressing charges on the person that sent him out every single time.
You're absolutely
Each
right.
and every single one of them
That's
were not charged.
what she's saying is a fantastic point. Veronica's making a great point. How is he still allowed to be on patrol? He had 22 complaints. He killed a black man earlier in his career, Derek Chauvin.
That's right.
The media don't even mention that. He killed a black man earlier. Not only did he kill a black man earlier, he beat the hell out of a 14-year-old little boy with a flashlight. Beat him almost to death.
Handcuffed a black woman and beat her.
So he's got a long history. So Veronica is right. Why was a beast like that out on patrol anyway, with the complaints he had? And so if you're going to ask that, you should also ask, why did he still have a job? Next question.
Any of them.
Anybody on Zoom got another question? Because we're going to wind it down. Zoom, go ahead, Avery.
22.
Yeah,
Let a black cop.
Michael, maybe you can enlighten me a little bit on this. I don't understand it. Oh boy. An attorney takes a bar exam in the state that he's going to practice.
Yes.
I know in some instances, people have taken a bar exam. If you're in New York, let's say you do Connecticut also.
Yes.
New Jersey, but generally speaking, people are only licensed to practice in 1 or 2 or 3 states at best.
Yes.
But in my understanding, I've heard of.
That's true.
That Trump can go all across the country and do what appears to me to be practicing law. Are you saying that there's some new thing that's been done for him where he can practice law and he's passing bar exam in all these states?
Absolutely. He has been able to go state to state. He's state hopping from one state to another and has been doing that. There are provisions where you can do a one-time case in another state as long as you partner with a lawyer from that state. But he has been crisscrossing literally the continent, going from state to state. He has received no opposition from any police department of note. It has happened because they like his style. He's about that bad. That's what he's about. He's about that bad. He is the settlement czar. That's what he does. He does not go after police officers to ruin their career. He wants the money, and that's what he does.
This being allowed to be by accident.
All right, we got one more question right here, then we're going to wind it
So
down.
where do we go from here? Do we just stay up and then watch?
Freedom Party.
No, I would say that one of the main things we have to do is get rid of literally almost every elected official we have.
Yes.
Now, that's not an easy thing to do. Because if these things were happening to Italians, all the Italian elected officials would be fighting. If it was Jewish, all the Jewish elected officials would be fighting. And Jewish attorneys would pro bono protect people. look at the situation we're in. I'm saying that I started out by saying there are people that can control your behavior from a distance that you don't even know. I'm saying that every black attorney should be doing pro bono cases and fighting for the rights of our people.
And there was a time when they were.
It was a time when we had more of it, but now it's literally zilch. So they're supposed to be fighting the good fight, you know, and they don't look at it as part of their responsibility, the struggles that black people did to get them into law school. It's not a casual thing. It's not an easy thing. Black people fought and died for people to get college degrees and then advanced degrees like what it takes to be a lawyer, or for a Dr. Lewis that's here tonight to be able to practice medicine. You know, so those things deserve the responsibility to give something back. You know, the Sankofa bird, you know, returning that which was lost. So that's what they should be obligated to do, but that's not what the settlement czar is doing. He's going from place to place getting settlements.
I just had to make a point, and I want to piggyback on something that you had said earlier. You said that the kid said there is no black man can't cry. Well, Michael B. Jordan is being considered to play the next Superman.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see how well it's supported, and will it be a so-called drama as opposed to a comedy, but we'll see. And if that happens, then that movie was in the 70s with Richard Pryor, and we'll see you know, how it flies. Will it flop or will it fly? We'll see. Time will tell.
Ladies and gentlemen, give yourself a big hand. People on Zoom, thank you very much. In 2 weeks, will we be back here? Anybody know the date? What's 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks.
Okay. You're welcome.
What's it like, 12 or something?
14,
I'm looking at my calendar.
We will be here 2 weeks from now,
the 12th.
the 12th.
12, man.
The 12th. Brother Mike will do part 2 on Hollywood and the criminal justice system. Give yourself a big hand. I want to thank our Zoom audience for coming in. Brother Avery, Sister Keisha, Dr. Filet, Brother True, thank you for coming, and everybody give yourself a big hand. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Trust me, take it
True.
outside.